Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I am the Omni viewer, and I'm here with another little kaiju figure review. This time not of any name brand kaiju, but of some figures you might have heard about but might not have seen. These are a pair of Lanard Toys figures, as part of the Primal Clash line, although they're not actually technically part of it. I don't really know. I don't know the mythos of Primal Clash, if there is one. But these are a pair of 8-inch figures, known as the Boss and the Kaiju. And as you can see, they come in the same kind of packaging you'd expect from Kaiju figures as you might see from Playmates. However, I'm sure you're looking at these and you're thinking, they look kind of like they're just knockoffs, right? Giant gorilla, giant reptile with spines down the back. This is very clearly trying to be Kong and Godzilla, right? Like, Lanard Toys clearly saw that MonsterVerse figures have been flying off the shelves, but they don't have the rights to it. Playmates does. So, they decided to come up with their own giant gorilla and giant dinosaur monster that are like Godzilla and Kong, but not so like them that they would get sued. And let's be honest, that probably is the reasoning behind them. But does that mean they are just knockoffs? Or are they actual quality figures that are worth adding to your collection? That's what I'm going to find out today. So, for starters, we can see that these figures are actually pretty big when you get right down to it. If we put them next to a Bandai Movie Monster Series figure and a Playmates standard Godzilla figure, well, you can see the difference, right? The two Godzilla figures I have here are in the 6-inch scale. These guys are 8 inches tall. Way, way bigger. In fact, they're even slightly bigger, at least in terms of height, than the Super 7 Ultimates figures. The gorilla's got just a little bit on Godzilla, as you can see here. And they're just slightly smaller than the Titan Tech figures from Playmates. Although, once we put them side by side with these guys in particular, we can see one clear difference. These two Lanard figures, Boss and Kaiju, they have some really good detail on them. And I mean really good. Set them aside for a moment. Let's look at the Titan Tech figures here. While they're not bad in terms of, visuals and everything, you can see that the texturing isn't necessarily that impressive. With Kong, his fur is very smooth, not all that detailed. Godzilla's skin here is bumpy and in different ways, but it doesn't necessarily have a lot of detail to it. And of course, turn him around, it's slightly obscured by the armor, but there are those open screw holes that always get me whenever that happens. But with these two, the detail is actually much better. I'll zoom in a little bit for you. With the Boss figure, you can see the fur texture is, while still not necessarily astounding, it's far more detailed than your average King Kong figure, or Kong figure if you want to split hairs. And when we turn him around, we can also see details like the bulging veins in his arms, the raised scars on his chest and everything. That's not bad. And with the Kaiju, his skin's got all kinds of details running down it. From like the wide plates to little pebbly textures here and there. There are a lot of variations here. Not bad at all. Not bad at all in terms of those texturing details. And we can also see some other interesting stuff like, I guess I should have brought a light with me, but maybe you can still tell, the spines on the Kaiju are ever so slightly translucent. Not completely see-through like the Godzilla spines here, but just enough that there's a little bit more visual interest to be found. Of course, he is still molded in this walking pose, but, I guess that's just to be expected at this point. Now, how about articulation? Because these are movable figures. I've been keeping them in a static pose at this point, but they can actually move. Now, as you can probably tell and might even expect, Boss here has way more articulation than the Kaiju. You know, but it's a good range of motion. He can move his arms up and down, but he can also move them like this, and even at the elbows. So he's got those swivel joints. He can move his wrists around. And I also like that his wrists are neither fully closed into fists nor fully open either. And it's both of them, as opposed to Kong, who has one open and one closed usually. His head is on a swivel joint. His legs don't have much movement, although his feet can actually swivel a little bit as well. In fact, if you wanted to, you could pose him in a quadrupedal stance like this, as you can see, even though he's more designed to be upright. And to my surprise, his mouth can open. Now, mouths that open on these figures are rare. Like, you're not going to find many King Kong or King Kong knockoff figures where the mouth can open and close. The NECA figure is one of the few I can think of. But otherwise, Playmates figures, you have two different figures with two different variations of a head. One with mouth open, one with mouth closed. The giant Kong Skull Island figure that you've seen in the background of my other videos, that mouth is open permanently. With the Haya Toys or SH Monster Arts, you have to switch the heads out if you want different expressions. But this guy's mouth can open. I appreciate that detail. And like I said, lots of ways he can move, so lots of different options for posing. With the Kaiju, not quite as many. The legs are pretty much only limited to back and forth. This part of the tail, it comes detached in the package, but once it's there, it doesn't swivel around. His mouth can open, and you can see some good detail in there. But it's actually with his arms that I was surprised. Normally, Kaiju arms can only move like this on these kinds of figures, up and down. But they added that extra little bit that allows his arms to go out like this, and his wrists can rotate. I have to say, I've been waiting for some Saurian Kaiju figures like this to have that detail. I don't know why they're not more standard, but this guy provides us with a good demonstration of how that can in fact be done. So, what's my ultimate conclusion? Are these figures worthy of collecting? I would say yes, if you can find them. That's the thing. I've been searching for these guys for quite a bit now, and I only just came across them the other day by chance. I've been looking online. In fact, I just checked before sitting down to film this, and neither of these guys are available on any of the major online stores as far as I can tell. You can find a big version of the boss character. You can't find the 8-inch versions of either of these guys, and I haven't seen any big versions of the Kaiju. So you might have to actually go out to a store if you want to add these guys to your collection. Even then, though, you might not find them in one of the big stores. Because again, I've been looking. I've checked in Walmart. I've checked in Target. I haven't seen them anywhere. Where I found these was actually in a state-specific chain store with a very small toy section. I just happened to be going by it because I was in there the other day, and here they are. And, you know, considering that they're actually not all that expensive, I paid like $24 and change for both of them, which is a lot less than you would pay for a Super 7 figure or some of the bigger Playmates figures. And it's the same price you might pay for the 6-inch range, but like I said, these guys are bigger and better detail and articulation. So, not a bad price for this level of quality. Are they the best Kaiju figures out there? Maybe not. But I do kind of like them. You know, the boss here has a design that's certainly evocative of King Kong without exactly looking like King Kong. Kaiju here, The more I look at him, the more I actually start to see a little bit of the Rhedosaurus in the face, particularly with how it's shaped, where the eyes are positioned, things like that. So it's a neat design even beyond that, even if it is somewhat familiar. So yeah, considering that they are on the lower end of the price range, these are actually pretty good quality. So if you can find them, sure, pick them up and add them to your collection if you're so inclined. I don't think you'll regret it. Until such time as we meet again, this is the Omni Viewer signing off.